Let's get corrupted. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Joe with Meteoric Serpents coming back at you for another episode of the Colubrid Corruption Podcast. Guys, welcome back. Another week down, another week of Colubrid Corruption. Super excited to be back as always, and we have a great episode in store for you guys. I hope you saw the thumbnail and my post on Instagram. Tonight we have on Phil Wolf. This is going to be a real fun one. Phil's local to me. We've met a few times, which is cool. So we're friendly in real life, not just internet friends. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I see him laughing in the background at that. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this. Going to be talking about, some different things. I've had some talks about some venomous snakes. I know Phil has some colubrids as well, but the venomous are kind of like adjacent to colubrids. So I think they kind of fit into this category pretty well and a little bit off the rails. So yeah, going to be a fun one. But guys, so as always, I do have Meteoric Serpents t-shirts available, as well as the Colubrid Corruption shirts. I'm trying something new on YouTube today, and I guess I'll just get it out now because I saw it on there. You could set a little like goal thing. If you see on there with the super chats, so if there are 10 $2 super chats, I'll do a t-shirt giveaway out of the 10 people who entered their name in or threw a super chat in. Every $2 entry gets you, or every $2 gets you an entry for a t-shirt. It's kind of like a raffle thing. We'll try that. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. If anyone's interested, if not, don't do it. But I figured let's shoot and see what happens. But yeah. Also, if you're watching this live on YouTube, make sure you leave a like, hit that subscribe button. We always appreciate that. Always growing subscribers every week. I really appreciate you guys. Super thankful to all the listeners. There we go. We got Shane with the first super chat there. Yeah, and then if you're listening, you could also listen to this on all the major audio podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, a couple others as well. I know YouTube Music. So go listen to it where you can. Make sure to give it a 5-star review and all that good stuff. Also, let's see. I have all my social medias down in the link in the description below. It's pretty much at Meteoric Serpents everywhere. Make sure to go give me a follow on there. I appreciate that. Also have the link to our guest's Instagram, which you could always find. Let's see. Also, guys, make sure you support USARK Florida. Those are the organizations that fight for our rights to keep our reptiles, whether this is just a hobby for you or whether it's a business. They, fight against reptile legislation. So make sure you support those who support us. And the cheapest memberships to those organizations are very cheap. So you could definitely join and show your support. Also, guys, the first link in the description below does go to the Meteoric Serpents Patreon if you want to show some support in other ways. A bunch of people who like colubrids as well. Also, so it's a big group chat on Discord. A bunch of people who like colubrids. Also, it's just a way to support me, support the show. As always, I've always said I just want to make the show bigger and better for you guys. So, joining that helps me to do that. Plus, it's fun. So yeah, consider that. Also, the show is brought to you by Show Me Reptiles. The guys who threw Colubrid Fest. It was great meeting Mickey there. Show Me Reptiles. So if you live pretty much anywhere in the country, you could probably find a local Show Me Reptiles show near you, whether you're an attendee or a vendor. Definitely go check it out. You could also check out their new marketplace, the Show Me Marketplace, which I do have linked in the description below. And if you are a seller, you could use the code that's on your screen, corruption-50, to get 50% off your first year's membership as a seller on the Show Me Marketplace. So that's, once again, that's corruption-50 to get 50% off your first year as a vendor on the Show Me Marketplace. And as per usual, I did forget to pull up the Colubrid hashtag Colubrid corruption of the week. So let's do that real quick. And I'm just stalling for time here until I pick a real pretty Colubrid. Oh boy, what do we have here? I don't know. There is some good stuff. I will say that. There's always good stuff every week. I'm always seeing some good pictures. I always have to make sure I don't double up on pictures. Let's check it out. You know, I see some of my pictures here too, and I'm just like, oh, that's a good pic. Oh, wait, that's mine. And yeah, so we're not going to choose mine. Oh boy, I'm slacking here. There's so many good photos. And it's always the same people. I wish more people joined in, guys. Hashtag Colubrid corruption on your Colubrid photos, and you'll have a chance of being featured once per week with a nice little shout out. Actually, I'm just gonna go with this one because why not? And I've definitely shown off Jared's snakes before at Jared Snake Room, former guest of the pod. Just a nice little pair of Gonyosoma oxycephalum, red-tailed green rats. One of the greens and a silver phase one as well. Super cool, just beautiful animals. And Jared's got a stellar collection of these guys. Go check out Jared and make sure to go put hashtag Colubrid corruption on all your Colubrid photos if you want to get featured on the show. And let's say what's up to the live chat because I see there's a bunch of people here. We got Shane in the chat, also joined in on the giveaway. We got Reptiles and Oddities. What is going on? Appreciate you. We got Adam from Ivory Colubrid Co., one of the Patreon members. Appreciate you being here. We got Keller in the building. I know he's here for Phil tonight. I'm not going to read that out loud, but for anyone watching, there it is. We got John in the chat. The Long Island Expo in March. I know White Plains was today. I know Phil from the Patreon was there. So yeah. Jay Hill, what is going on? Also joining in the t-shirt little giveaway. We got Ryan from Wharf Valley Reptiles, and we got Justin here. We want the wolf. Yes, the wolf is coming. I got you, Keller. Yeah, I know that too. A bunch of reptiles are brumating. But let's we got a couple last people. Mike Gillen and Mike Kosicki, two mics back to back. All right, but guys, without further ado, let's bring our guest out for tonight and welcome the man, the myth, the Phil Wolf. What is going on? How are you?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Pretty good.
I got to be honest. I was very tempted to just show up at your house and be like, let's do this together. I was like, nah, I won't be that guy.
That would have been funny for sure. But yeah, one, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. This one was long overdue because I know I had asked you once and I know the timing wasn't right at the time. But glad we were able to figure this one out for this week.
It's good, bro. It's good.
Yeah. So, I know there are a bunch of people in the chat who do know who you are, but just in case there are listeners who don't really know who you are, can you kind of give your little overview of how you got into the hobby and how that segued into where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Phil Wolf. And much like everyone listening and watching this, you start off with a leopard gecko and it's all downhill from there. And I've been doing reptile stuff for, definitely 20 something years, if not longer. And the older I get, the larger that number gets, which is marginally scary. And a few years back, I got linked up with some of the THN guys, and Justin and I started a podcast doing snakes and stogies, and that took off. We're do that every Monday night live. and then I wound up linking up with my good friend Nephrurus in London, and we have Venom Exchange Radio. So that's my other podcast that I contribute to. But
Yeah.
I've been a keeper, herper, venomous keeper, venomous mentor for at least 20 years, if not longer, just all around. It's all I know, man, and it's what I love, and I get to talk to guys like you and make friends with guys like you, and it's good stuff, man.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm an avid listener. I've listened a lot more to Snakes and Stogies. I just started listening to Venom Exchange Radio, and I definitely want to listen to more episodes just to learn. I was telling you beforehand, I listened to the episode with Dr. Messenger, one of whom I'd love to have on here as well. I definitely need to get in touch with him somehow.
You gotta have him on.
Yeah.
You have his book, right?
I do have the book.
Good.
I ordered it as soon as it came out, and I got a signed copy. So
excellent.
Yeah. But yeah, man, that's awesome. So, where you are today, I know a lot of what you do revolves around keeping desert species, and you talk about it every week. What's going on in the desert room? How's it reacting to the outside environment in Florida? Yeah. What made you set on that path of like going with those arid desert species for the most part?
Well, how do I phrase this? So I'm enamored with the desert, and I grew up in a farm in my youth, and then when we moved to South Florida, it was swamp, and I always say I grew up on a farm, but I matured in the swamp, if that makes sense. And herping but you always want what you can't have, right? You always want what you don't have. And I've always been enamored with the desert, especially Saharan stuff and the Southwestern United States and the whole MENA region, Middle East, North Africa. I love that ecosystem, those biomes and the animals within them. And I love desert stuff. I love desert culture, the people and how they scrape a life in such a harsh environment, and the animals that they're with and living in those ecosystems. And it's just absolutely fascinating to me. Everything from the lizard on the rock to the music that the locals play. I love desert lifestyle. And over the years, I've been lucky enough to work places that had a wide assortment of exotics. And then I've kept a large assortment of exotic myself over the years. And I always just gravitate to desert stuff. And I am a colubrid guy at heart. And I have some pythons, I've got some lizards, I got venomous, but I'll always have colubrids. And there is a small group of colubrids that focus on desert. And I feel like, let me rephrase it. There's a lot of colubrids that live in the desert. And I want to be that guy. But in our community, in our hobby, our discipline, whatever you want to call it, there's not that many arid colubrids. And so I kind of wanted to focus on that too. And a good friend of mine, Henry Martinez, who's a venomous keeper, he's been a mentor to me in a lot of different ways, and I mentored him in venomous. And he told me, he's like, look, man, you can have all these different species, and it's kind of it's like a herper's curse. Like you want to have one of everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can't really, I don't want to say you can't, that's a very definitive word, northern definitives, excuse me. It's very difficult to focus in on a habitat or an ecosystem or a biome and have the next terrarium next to it be completely different. And Henry told me, he's like, look, man, if you want to do jungle stuff, let's do jungle stuff. If you want to do swamp stuff, let's do swamp stuff. I was like, no, I want to do desert stuff. He's like, you want to do desert stuff in South Florida? Well, let's do it. And with the exception of my North American colubrids, everything I keep now is desert and arid and Sub-Saharan Africa and MENA region and Middle Eastern. So it just kind of blossomed from there. And I've been doing the desert focus room for about 2-ish years now. And it's been a weird ride. And that's why you mentioned I bring it up on the podcast all the time, just because it's such peaks and valleys with the temperature and the humidity.
Yeah.
And you and I live in a swamp. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And like right now, let's even look at it right now. Right now, you're 15 minutes down the road from me, and it's 61 degrees Fahrenheit outside. and it's 73% humidity. Like,
well, that's what I was
wild.
gonna say. Besides you know, like having to create this environment for the animal, we also live in the exact opposite
Exactly.
of a desert environment. So,
Yeah. So I just pulled up the Govee. So remember, it's 61 outside right now where I'm sitting,
yep.
and 70, what was it, 76% or 71%, whatever it is. In the snake room ambient right now, it's 72 degrees Fahrenheit and 52% humidity.
Okay.
So that's actually pretty high. A couple days ago, I had it like primo. I think it was 58 or 59 degrees in the room, and it had like 35% humidity. But
Oh, wow.
outside, it was like 55 degrees outside and 80% humidity because we had just got that cold front coming through. So
Yeah.
it's a seesaw, man.
Right. And when you're looking at that, so that's obviously your room Govee, and then I assume you have some pretty intense lighting slash heating elements for each respective animal, or not quite?
No, not quite. So certain animals that are in certain enclosures have their own heating and lighting. But for the most part, like all my subocularis, all the king snakes, the corn snakes, um, all of that is ambient. The Gila
Okay.
monster, I've got radiant heat panel in there with UVB. The Rinkals, I've got heat emitters with heat lamps and UVA and B full spectrum that's on cycling timers. So they're not overlapping for too much throughout the day. And I've basically made the crescendo, the peak and valley of the temp cycle for those individual vivariums. But other than a few things, it's mostly ambient. And in the summertime, that room will be 45% humidity in the room with an ambient temperature of 85 degrees midday,
Okay.
87 degrees midday in like July and August. And then outside, it'll be however hot it gets outside, but it'll be 90% humidity. So I'm
Yep.
almost keeping it as dry as possible in there so that the outside humidity doesn't leach through the windows and whatnot. So
Gotcha.
it's tough, man, but we're trying.
Yeah. And that like sub 50% humidity is kind of like your goal
Yeah,
in the room.
if I can keep it between 35 and 45%, that's cool because that'll allow most of the temperate North American colubrids to not get dehydrated and not have bad sheds.
Yeah.
I recently lost a snake that my Kasiki was kind enough to give me. Unfortunately, it did not acclimate well to the desert room, and it's part of the game we play. I hate to say it like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'm really crushed that I lost that snake, but keeping it in that range is the bare minimum for the temperate stuff, but almost the bare maximum for some of the other desert stuff.
Right. Okay. Very cool. And now obviously one of the things I wanted to get into was talking about all the venomous stuff you have. And obviously, for those who don't know, Florida, it's a very complicated, you can do it legally, but it's a very complicated way to go about it legally in the form of your 1,000 hours. And it's supposed to be 1,000 hours in each respective
Category.
like category, exactly.
Yeah, category.
Because I know it's elapids, the vipers, the heloderma, and what am I forgetting?
Colubrids.
Oh yeah, Colubrid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so what did you go through? What was your kind of upbringing that got you into the venomous stuff? That made you want to keep them, and yeah.
Well, I've been doing reptiles my whole young adult life, and then right around when I was 18, maybe 17, turning 18, I had started to get interested in the venomous stuff because I didn't know about it. You know, we're always
Yep.
trying to learn as much as we can. And I was 18 and I was working at Underground Reptiles retail store. And back then they had a corner of the store that was allocated to all venomous enclosures. And the laws were
Yep.
very, very lax back then in terms of caging requirements and how they could be displayed and whatnot. It's very different now. And at the time I was opening the store with one other guy on like the off days that the shop was open. And the guy was like, hey, you really should, we have a venomous class so the guys can get their hours. You should take a couple of those classes. And that way, God forbid you open the store and there's a rattlesnake on the floor, you know how to handle it appropriately and at least get it back in its enclosure until someone else more competent than I can come and help. I said, you know what, that's a really great idea. So I did, and I just became obsessed. I became enamored, and Venomous really took hold for me, and I learned everything that I could in as fast a time as I could while still being safe and learning the ropes. And at the time, it would take the average person about maybe a year and a half, 2 years to get the hours that they needed and the experience that they needed to apply for the license. It's very different now. I waited like almost 4 years before I got my license, and I worked at probably 6 or 7 different facilities just because I wanted to learn as much as I could before I got that piece of paper. That way there was not a thought in my brain that I wasn't ready. And I really feel like that helped me a lot in many ways because I got to work with many different people, see how many different people did the same exact thing. They just did it their way, and kind of formulate my own way of doing things off of that. There's right and wrong ways to do things, but I'm not the kind of guy to say, this is how you do it. I'll say, this is how you should do it. If you want to modify it to your own liking, knock yourself out. But this is really how you should do it. And there was a short time where I didn't do anything, a few years, I mean, maybe 6, 7 years, something like that. And the guy that was running the class at Underground, he wound up moving away. And the owner of Underground was like, hey man, will you come back and do this class? Cause these guys, they got nowhere to go, and guys and girls, they got nowhere to go. And I don't have the time to teach them. I said, sure. So twice a week for over 10 years, I taught the Venomous lessons class at Underground's retail store. And that was even more knowledge because not only am I showing people how I would do things and how others do things, I'm seeing how they're developing it and even getting more ideas from them and learning experiences from them. So it was a very, very fundamental time for me, those 10 years or so. And after some time, the state changed their laws and it made it very, very difficult. And we closed the class down. And as of right now, I have no apprentices. I have no students underneath me just because the state, that their goal was to make it so difficult that no one wanted to do it. And they basically succeeded. So, I mean, the future is still bright and still open. Who knows what the future will hold? But as of right now, I don't know if there's any classes besides the Rattlesnake Conservancy. And man, I think that might be it for right now.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know all of my, knowledge when it comes to like Venomous here in Florida. I don't know if you know Paul McIntyre. I think you do.
Of course.
Yeah.
I just talked to him yesterday.
Okay, yeah. So Paul's a good buddy of mine. He's been on the show as well. So I've heard a lot from him and hearing, all the different things. So it's very interesting to hear the process of going through the hours and getting it done and then being able to keep these species, And from what I've heard from Paul, the people who take it very seriously and go about their precautions and their procedures the right way, I really do admire, though it's something I don't think I'd ever personally be interested in doing or attempting. I really do admire that they, people like you and like Paul, like take the time to be very good about the way they do things, Yeah,
man. We appreciate that. I appreciate that. It really is a I don't want to say an island into itself, but it's definitely the sidecar to the reptile community. And we always talk about the project herpetoculture guys. They always talk about the discipline, right? How this is not a hobby. This is a discipline, no different than a martial art or an actual art, like painting or crafting something or working on vehicles and cars and motorcycles. Whatever you do, you perfect that discipline. And we have our reptile disciplines, and then there's Venomous. That's like I said, the sidecar. And if you want to get in that sidecar, it's a wild ride, You know what I mean? You have the wind in
Oh
your
yeah.
hair, but we don't do it for the wild ride. We don't do it for the adrenaline. We do it because we love the animals, and it genuinely makes you, in my opinion, a better keeper because you are not hands-on, and it's
Yep.
more observation, and it's more animal behavior and learning how these animals interact with one another as well as you on a daily basis. And yeah, Jason Keller, I love you, Jay, man. Venomous is the best / worst hobby you can get involved in. And I mean, he's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's extremely rewarding, but it's also very, very tedious and not glamorous when you really watch it. And I've had people come over to the house and they're like, "Oh, I'll take a cobra out." And I'm like, "Well, not today." "Well, why not?" "Well, I'm here. I'm going to see a cobra." I'm like, "Well, I just fed it, and no, we're not doing it." "Well, why not?" "Because it's dangerous, and you're here."
Yeah.
That's not how we do it.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very rewarding discipline, but it is a discipline through and through.
Yeah. Definitely. Um, Yeah, it's just so crazy. And it's funny that you started saying that because as you started saying it, I was literally going to ask you. I'm like, I'm sure there's things that the venomous keeping has taught you to apply to your non-venomous snakes. Um, so I wanted to go through what are those certain things that you could take away from them that you would apply to your general collection?
I think feeding is a huge deal. Um, I feed probably 2/3 of my animals live. You know, I'm very lucky that we have underground around the corner and I can get live whenever I want. Um, a lot of people don't have that luxury, but I feed about like I said, 2/3 live prey. And it is not, it's not the sadistic, violent thing that people make it out to be. They glorify the look at the rat die from the venom. Like that's not the case. It's more so the natural instincts of the animal being allowed to be portrayed or conveyed, whatever, however you want to phrase it, and allowing that venomous snake to hunt the way that it was meant to hunt. Like we always quote Jurassic Park, like T-Rex doesn't want to be fed, he wants to hunt. It's the same thing, man. And yeah, you can take a frozen thawed mouse on a set of hemostats and you can wiggle it in front of the snake's face, and for the most part, it's going to grab it thinking that it's alive.
Yeah.
But when the heat element is there and the breathing and the scent and the pheromones of that live prey item, it really does alter demeanor or enhance demeanor or allow the snake to be what it's meant to be, you know? And obviously the goal is to get stuff on frozen thawed, but even
Yep.
stuff that I know I could feed frozen thawed to, I still feed live because again, the animal's getting to be the animal. You know, it's bad enough we
Right.
kind of keep them in a box. You know, we want to make that box as best we can. And things like that, at least in my observations, have been beneficial. Learning how to feed venomous different ways in terms of not putting your hand in the cage, not just opening a cage and throwing a live mouse in there. Those venomous techniques on putting the prey item, presenting the prey item to the individual specimen, and then getting yourself out of there in a safe, calm way. So that way the animal gets to eat, you get your observation, and you're safe at the same time. That in itself can be cast to any reptile you keep, whether it's a red-eared slider or a bearded dragon. So little things like that add up in a big way for me when translating from venomous to colubrids or pythons or blizzards or whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I don't know if that
No, that
answered your
makes
question or if
sense.
I kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, it does. It does.
All
Yeah.
right, sorry.
No, I agree with you. There is kind of that live feeding. It helps certain animals and certain animals prefer it. There are some animals who won't take the frozen thawed. I keep a
Yeah,
bunch of Texas rat snakes that will eat anything you put in front of them. So I guess I have it easy in that case. But no, I totally get what you're saying. I actually feed my ball pythons live still. I just find that to be easier for them,
yeah,
and easier for me, a lot less stress.
yeah. I'll also say in regards to venomous technique being useful in a non-venomous world as well is general handling of the animal. So we all have our rat snake that we could just reach in, or corn snake. You just reach in, grab them, pick them up real quick. You won't get bit. You're fine. Well, I'm still putting unnecessary stress on that animal. I'm still grabbing that animal. I'm still the giant hairless monkey coming down from the heavens and picking this critter up where it is terrified out of its mind and thinks it's going to get eaten. But if I use a snake hook, and I'm very, very smooth and very methodical, and I'm using my balancing rule of thirds on the snake, or I'm using 2 hooks to rudder the snake and position the snake in a way that I can direct the snake's direction to go left, right, up, down, whatever it is. And I'm learning these techniques using just snake hooks, varying snake hooks of appropriate size and weight and shape. And I do that to a colubrid. It may not ride that hook or grab onto that hook the same way that a cobra does, or a viper does, or rattlesnake does, but I still have the mindset of extracting the animal from its enclosure very calmly, very, very smooth. We always talk about how venomous keeping is not a breakdance. It's a waltz. It's a ballet. It's smooth. It's silky. There's no rough edges with venomous until shit gets hairy, and then you have to have rough edges. But you can portray the same thought process and mantra into harmless stuff too. Again, I'm not going to use a snake hook on a carpet python the same way I'm going to use it on a puff adder. It's just the body mechanics isn't there. But the concept of using the snake hook to engage the animal at a distance where my heat is farther away, I'm not physically touching it. The warmth of my hand is not physically touching it. It's a small surface area that's touching that snake, giving a nerve response externally, and then scooping the animal up or dragging that animal to me, or scooping it and bringing it to me, however you want to negotiate it in your mind, and extracting it from its enclosure calmly and relaxed. That even if you use the snake hook to take it out and put it in your own hand, right?
Yep.
It's infinitely greater than just reaching in there and grabbing stuff, or grabbing decor and moving decor out. So very minute things that we oftentimes take for granted that we're not focusing on, like using a snake hook opposed to just grabbing something. With venomous, you can't just grab it. You have to use the tools that we use. So that translates very well into harmless stuff. I mean, I could probably reach in and just grab all of my colubrids, but I usually don't. I usually use a snake hook, if anything, just to put them in my own hand. If I'm going to take a picture in the bathroom mirror or whatever, that famous hand picture in front of your white door of your bathroom, because the animal's going to be way more chill if I just scoop it up with a snake hook and place it in my hand, opposed to the big monkey paw coming and grabbing it from the heavens.
Yeah.
So little things like that very, very much go hand in hand with the two different disciplines.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And I see it, even with some of my species. Like I noticed the coxswain in particular, the bamboo rat snakes. They are super sensitive when you first open that tub, and sensitive in like to like touch and sight. Like they're very, very responsive, and they will strike at you if you go in there. If I put my hand in front of their face, they will strike. If I, first move, I go to pick them up, they probably will strike me as well. I usually use a hook on them, and as soon as they calm down, and like I could tell, and it takes about 5 seconds, then I could grab them with my hand. But it's just funny what you learn at a snake behavior like that.
For sure. And people don't think about this, but people that ride roller coasters, or sometimes the elevator that you're in does one of these where it jolts itself. When you go over the crest of a roller coaster and you have that loose feeling in your gut, and the not anxiety, but the adrenaline kicks in, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going over the edge of the roller coaster. That feeling of falling. We are however many pounds heavier, however many feet taller than the snake in the vivarium. But when we grab it and yoink it up real quick and then bring it back down, it's the same thing as us going on the Tower of Terror.
Yeah.
And that's why people always say, don't handle your snakes for 2 or 3 days after feeding, because they're going to throw it up the same way that you and I would throw up. If you ate a whole pizza before we went on a roller coaster, and then all of a sudden you went on the roller coaster, you're going to yak that stuff up. And the same thing goes for drawers. or even opening Exoterra glass doors in the front of the vivarium. Like, we all have snakes in drawers and racks. When you slide that rack out, usually you do it pretty quick. Well, think about you're sleeping in your bed and all of a sudden a car just pushed your bed across the room at 40 miles an hour. It's the same concept. So doing certain things in that venomous capacity of going slow, being methodical, being very calm, relaxed, super zen. Jason Keller will tell you, man, zen venomous is the best venomous. Every now and then you got to throw down the cardboard and do some breakdancing, but we try not to, right? That the goal is to not have to breakdance. But again, just translating the smoothness and the methodicalness of venomous into harmless keeping, they're hand in hand, most definitely hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to go through some of like the species you're keeping. I don't know a whole lot about scientific names on venomous species, so you're gonna have to help me out. But what are you keeping? Like, what's the kind of range of species that you're keeping? Obviously, it's all mostly desert stuff, but I want to go through some of them.
The only non-arid stuff I have right now is I have a pair of Lee Abbott Oak corns that I'm growing up. They're about 2 years old now. I've got a couple carpet pythons that of different types that are just for funsies. I got a pair of Queensland water pythons. They're about 4 years old now. They're together. Hopefully something happened over the past cold front. We'll find out. I'm trying to think what else is not desert. And then I've got one African bush viper, Atheros chlorechus. I've got one of those just to have one little arboreal thing. Everyone needs to have one little arboreal thing. And then I've got a cottonmouth that's basically a pet, and I've got a pair of Palm Beach County pygmy rattlesnakes. And that's it for non-desert stuff. Everything else is arid or even grassland, stepland stuff. Colubrids, other colubrids I'm doing is I've got Arizona Mountain Kings, I've got Trans-Pecos rat snakes, I've got some Everglades rat snakes too. Gila monster, and then I'm keeping Cerastes, the desert horned viper. I'm keeping Pseudocerastes fieldi, which is the Fields mountain viper, Fields desert viper. Everyone knows the spider tail viper, the viper that has the weird tail that makes it look like a spider walking on the rocks.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. People have seen on National Geographic where the spider is moving and the bird comes to eat the spider and the snake bites the bird. Pseudocerastes fieldi is the cousin to that spider-tailed one. They're actually really cool. They're mid-altitude desert rocky landscape vipers that look like rock and stone, and they have like these scalations on their head that almost make like devil horns, like a mound of a devil horn. And they rasp and huff and puff, making almost a tea kettle sound with bass. It's super fascinating. And then they also can undulate their bodies to rake the scales amongst themselves to make a rattlesnake sound. It's super cool. And then instead of having the spider tail, they have like a little black tip to their tail that they can wiggle like a lure. So very, very fascinating species. I love them. I've got several different species of rock rattlesnake. I've got and localities as well. Lepidus colubri, Lepidus lepidus, this banded rock rattlesnake, model rock rattlesnake, Tamaulipan rock rattlesnakes, Marulus. I've got locality of them. Oh man, you're making me think too hard. I've got a single female Elapsodia sundavali, the Sandoval's garter snake. It's an African garter snake. It's in the elapid family. They're in the cobra family. Highly venomous from southern Africa. So if anybody is listening and they have a male Sandoval's garter snake, let me know. I'm in need of a male. I've got some Cordillus lizard species. I've got some Nephrurus gecko species. I've got a small.
I was waiting for those. You are knobtails.ig, the Nephrurus initiative.
Yeah, I'm actually really low on knobtails right now. I'm only keeping Cinctus, the Pilbara banded geckos, and I've got one male vertebralis, the vertebral line knobtail that's just like a pet gecko. I sold geckos and had some geckos die, and I don't have the time to really focus on them right now. I'm still madly in love with that whole genus, and I'll still rep them till the day I die. But I'm not diehard majorly geckoed right now, just because life, you know.
Yeah.
Feeding bugs. Oh, it's rough. Justin says it's Zin for Keller, not Zen. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh man. I've got Rinkal's cobras, which are a very, very, very special snake. They're not real cobras. They're not in the cobra family. They're their own, the monotypic genus. They're their own thing. Basically, it is a keeled scaled snake, so rough like a pine snake or a gopher snake. They live in extremely arid grassland environments that also get freezing cold. There's actually pictures of them basking on snow, which is crazy. They have a hood like a cobra. They stand up like a cobra. They spit like a cobra, but they don't lay eggs. They give live birth. So very, very fascinating. It's arguably my favorite snake species. I've got a pretty good group of them. I've got a bunch of puff adders. And then I've got Nubian cobra, Ashes cobra, Ethiopian cobra. I've got a gaboon viper. Just everyone needs a gaboon viper. You gotta have one. And I've got Transpecos copperhead. Man, I'm good in the gauntlet. My apologies.
Yeah.
But there's a lot in that room.
Yeah. No, so now I am curious, and for people who don't know and aren't from Florida, so I know like getting the permit to keep them is very strict. The way you have to keep them is also very strict in the form of, correct me if I'm wrong, they have to be behind a locked door, and then each individual snake or each enclosure has to have a lock on it.
Yes and no. A good venomous keeper is going to have a lock on every cage. Sometimes that's not possible. I have a Cambro rack with horned vipers in it. I had it custom built with individual key locks on each tub.
Oh, wow.
I don't use it. I don't use the locks because it's such a pain in the ass. There's no way that snake is physically going to push that drawer open. It's physically impossible. But as long as the room is locked, then the enclosures don't have to be. However, with the exception of that rack, everything I have has a lock on it.
Gotcha.
I'm very, very big on doubling up safety protocols. Basically, for the state of Florida, the room has to be completely stripped to a naked room and then inspected by local Fish and Wildlife.
Yes.
They deem the room escape proof. Once they deem it escape proof, then you can bring snakes in and have it locked or not locked. Now, there used to be some kind of caveat where if everything was locked, you didn't have to have an escape proof. I don't think that's the case anymore. And to be honest, between you and I, why wouldn't you do an escape proof room? Like that just doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't you want that extra precaution? So I've got all that in place. If it is this is an inner room with no door. There's no outside access to this room. If there was a door to the outside world, the room would be failed, or you'd have to create a double door system, much like they have on a tiger or like a lion enclosure, where there's like a door and then another door and then the outside world. Right. You'd have to build something like that. And for my colleagues in the state that have external snake houses, they have a snake building, on the other side of their property, whatever, they have to do that. They have to have that double door built onto there.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And that's you just went through a nice long list of animals. I'm sure it's got to be a decent sized room, or you just have a lot of cages and racks or whatever they may be.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in. I've got a lot of tubs. I've got some racks. I've also got, which this is a pain in my butt, but black box cages. Shout out blackboxcages.com. The best, just the freaking best out there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 2x2 or 2x18x2, whatever TV size Vivs that I'm in the process of decorating and making them pretty and cool.
Okay.
And then I'm going to move stuff out of tubs into that within the next however long it's taking me. But I got a ton of vision cages too. I've got a handful of exoterras. I got 2 exoterras right now that are just empty. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with them. But yeah, it's a good size room. Nothing crazy. Snakes are small.
Yeah. And have you had the pleasure of breeding any of those venomous species that you keep?
Yeah, so the stuff I have now, actually, let me think about it. With the exception of Cordillus and Knobtails, nothing in that room I've bred before. However, I bred a lot of stuff. You
haven't put it together, or they haven't produced?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both. So like the water pythons, I'd never bred water pythons before, excuse me. I put them together last year, nothing happened. I was going to do wrinkles last year and I missed the ovulation, and I was like, you know what, it's a hassle putting spitting cobras in the same cage. So I was like, you know what, I missed the ovulation. I'll wait till this coming season. So I'm going to pair them this coming season. I've bred a lot of stuff in the past, man, 10, 15 years ago, but I was never a breeder. I just had this stuff because I loved it. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, now I got to have a pair of that. I got to have a pair of this, a pair of that. And I've been raising stuff up for a long time now. Like, man, some of the stuff, like those water pythons, it was 4 or 5 years. And I'm like, are they big enough yet? So hopefully this year, I think the female's 5 and the male is 4. I think I bought them a year apart. I don't remember. But yeah, I've bred monocle cobras, I've bred spectacle cobras, Indo-Chinese spitting cobras, I bred Malayan pit vipers, cottonmouths. Man, I am rattlesnakes accidentally, puff adders accidentally. Sorry, man, it's late.
No worries. But I am curious. Not that like, I don't know. I don't want to say like they should be harder than other species to breed, but like, I don't know. I feel like guys who like really dedicate, a bit of their herp time to venomous, like they get them to produce relatively easily. I'll leave it like at that. But like, I feel like the guys like, I've seen Stephen Cush produce some venomous, like Patrick Holmes, and you're saying you have before. Like, are they easy to breed, or like, you guys are just probably providing the right conditions, obviously?
Well, I'll tell you right now, Patrick Holmes is just being modest because the dude's killing it, right?
Yeah.
Alex England, he's being modest. He's killing it. Those guys are switched on. They are dialed in. They know exactly what they're doing. I will not try to emulate that in the least bit because that's their life. That's what they do. And sometimes you get lucky. You put 2 rattlesnakes in the same cage and they happen to be from the same environment, which also happens to somewhat be where you live, and boom, you got baby rattlesnakes. Other times it is painstakingly difficult because you may need a minimum 15-degree temperature drop every night for 6 weeks. And it's like, how do you do that? Like, how do you choreograph that? Usually with like the Bitis genus, so puff adders, gaboons, rhino vipers, as long as your climate is correct for what as long as your habitat's parameters are correct and you drop temp a little bit and throw them together, or better yet, a cold front comes through or a storm front comes through, they're going to breed. Yeah. But I've also failed breeding Bitis multiple times. I was like, why didn't they do it this year? It just didn't. So, it really is, it really is species and individual animal specific. You gotta learn your animals, man. Both the species and the specific specimen.
Yeah. I don't know why, like in my head, I feel it's like, oh, they're venomous, like they should be harder to breed, but like in reality, they're probably just like any other snakes, and we got to just give them the right conditions and they'll go for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's no different than it's no different than a corn snake. I paired corn snakes and Indo-Chinese spinning cobras on the same time. And the cobras went and the corn snakes didn't. And then the next year, the corn snakes went and the cobras didn't. So like, It is what it is, man. I wish I had a better, a more professional answer for you.
Yeah. No, it's all good. And I am curious. I don't mean to take this down a semi-negative path, but what are your thoughts on today's like venomous culture that we kind of see within the hobby and the different things? And again, I know you do things with a very like detail oriented, and like I've heard you talk about it on shows, like you won't even go in the room if you're tired and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
like I know you're on your shit, but like how do you feel about the current like social media culture of how Venomous is being appropriated and free handling and things of that nature?
Well, I avoid it. I avoid the bad social media stuff. When people send me videos, I'm like, oh, that's cool, and I just kind of leave it be. Um, I'm not opposed to people using their hands in a certain way. And there's a huge difference between someone who is what we call manual manipulation, where the hook ain't going to work. You got to get hands on and you learn the attributes of the animal. You learn the techniques of doing so and you get hands on. That is very different than some dude on TikTok with a rattlesnake in his lap and he's petting it like a Yorkie. Like that's very different.
Yeah.
I do feel like there was a spike in shock factor on social media, and the people that were watching it were not the people that they didn't care about what that guy was doing. They just want to see that guy get bit and die. Like that, they don't care. However, it still affected the younger generation to a certain extent, and up and coming children that are thirsty for knowledge on reptiles and invertebrates and the creepy crawlies, and I feel like that's on a decline. I feel like the people that were making social media for shock value, that is declining, and they're realizing that, yeah, it's cool, you're holding a rattlesnake, nobody cares anymore. I still don't agree with it in the least capacity. I don't endorse it.
Yeah.
I won't promote it, but I do see it slowly not going away. It's never going to go away, but it's slowly being desensationalized, excuse me, if that's the right word. And
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. I think the more people, how do I phrase this? The more people see responsible handling, the less prone they'll be to watch the free handling. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So when they see someone doing something quote unquote the right way, and then they see the jackwagon with the rattlesnake in his lap like a Yorkie, they may watch and go, oh, what an idiot, but they may not follow that guy, or they may not subscribe to that guy, or continue to watch his videos or whatever it may be.
Well, and then here's like where my thoughts go. Do you feel that you yourself, as a responsible venomous keeper, do you think like it would be beneficial for you to show yourself being responsible on social media in however whatever content form you may desire? Like have you ever considered that?
Considered showing the right ways?
Yeah, like whether it's reels or YouTube videos, whatever it may
Oh,
be,
sure.
however you would want to get that out there.
Sure. Yeah. If you go to the Venom Exchange Radio YouTube channel, there was a couple episodes of what I call venomous etiquette videos.
Okay.
And I stopped doing them just because of time and just life. It's difficult to make them the way that I wanted to make them. And to be honest, they were freaking boring. The only people that watched them were diehard nerds that wanted to see how to hook open a door. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I do want to do more of that. I want to show more technique and skill development with handling venomous reptiles, because I feel like there is less and less mentors available. There's less and less people willing to mentor someone. And the
Right.
people that want to be mentored are becoming greater because they're seeing these jackwagons on social media and they're going, man, I don't want to be that guy. That just doesn't seem right. But they
Yeah.
don't have anything to see or to watch the right way. So I do plan on making more of those. But yeah, venomous etiquette videos on Venom Exchange Radio's YouTube channel. Go check them out.
Cool.
They are boring because venomous keeping the right way is boring.
Yeah.
It's not shocking. It's not glamorous. I used a stick to remove a snake from its cage. I cleaned its poo, and then I used the same stick to put it back. Scene.
Yeah.
You know?
I gotcha. Yeah. And I know you mentioned it that you haven't had like a student, I don't know what to call them, like a mentee, someone that you're
apprentice.
An apprentice. Sorry,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Would you ever consider one if it were the right person? Like what qualities
absolutely.
would you have to see in someone to take an apprentice in today's day and age?
So right now, I would not take anyone on right now because the way that I have things set up, it's at my home, and I'm not comfortable with
Bringing someone into your home.
Not necessarily bring someone into my home, but it's not safe enough for me to teach, in my opinion.
Okay.
When we had the class at Underground, we had space, we had room to work.
Yeah.
So if I had 3 or 4 or 5 people back there, guys and gals, we had room to stretch. Because let's say you weren't in like the ring, you could stand back another 10 feet in the showroom of the reptile shop, and you could still watch and interact and talk. We just had room. You don't have that room with a bedroom or even like an office. So until I have something like that, I probably wouldn't take people under my tutelage right now.
Gotcha.
When we had the class Underground, we tried to make it as strict as we could. Basically, I would do a half-ass interview with you at the counter. We'd go up to the front register and I'd be like, hey man, why do you want to do this? And if the person was like, oh man, I want a pet cobra. Like, cool. What kind of cobra you want? Oh, I don't know, man. I just know that I want a pet cobra. Like, honestly, man, we're kind of full right now. So why don't you try, the shop down the street or whatever? And that was a write-off right there.
Yeah.
People that were passionate about it, people that were enthusiastic about knowledge and learning and husbandry, and those were the people that we brought in.
Okay.
It's also easier to teach venomous to someone who's new to reptiles than to someone who's not, because someone who's been keeping colubrids or boas or pythons for 10 or 15 years, they've already developed a lot of bad habits that's hard to break. However, someone who says, hey, I just got my first corn snake, I want to start getting hours with venomous. Great, cool. You've only been doing snakes for a year. Awesome. You probably don't have any bad habits yet. Let's do this. We would start off with we had like little barriers that we put up so that people couldn't just walk into the area while we were taking a cobra out. What's up, Skylar? And for the first 4 weeks of classes, that person would stand outside the barrier and just watch. If you missed 2 weeks in a row, you're out because you're not committed. Let me rephrase that. If you didn't talk to me, if you didn't say, hey man, my car blew up, or hey, I got to work, my schedule changed. If you didn't communicate with me and I didn't see you for 2 weeks, you're out, because I need dedication. I need you to really want to be there. So 4 weeks you watched. Another 6 weeks, someone would take the animal out of the enclosure. The student would clean the cage, and then that other person would put the animal back. So 10 weeks of just watching and cleaning poo, not touching an animal, not touching a snake hook. Then we start small, whether it be a small rattlesnake or a small pit viper, or even honestly, even a baby cobra, depending on the scenario. We start small hooks, small snakes, and learning technique of using hooks, and developing the muscle memory, developing the gross motor skills, and fine tuning and perfecting the fine motor skills. And that process would take weeks. And after a certain point, myself, some of the other veterans that were there, you can tell when the person, they got it. And then we start going to bigger species. And maybe, how do I phrase this? At the time, it was one license for everything. Now we have the 4 categories.
Yep.
I have all the endorsements. I can have anything I want. I still would prefer people train with everything. There are people that say, oh, I don't need the elapid permit. I only want to keep rattlesnakes. I only want to keep Florida native stuff. That's cool. That's great for you. You're still going to get hours with an elapid. I'm still going to teach you those techniques because they're only going to make you better and more well-rounded overall.
Right.
So
right.
that was how we really got someone into the program. And then from there, it just keep doing it. Just repetition, muscle memory, just burn that shit in your mind. And we always say it is very boring. You're going to do the same thing over and over and over and over again because the basics is the foundation. It's the foundation of it all.
Yeah.
But before you know it, I have you at home with 2 snake hooks trying to balance one of your couch cushions on 2 snake hooks. And they're like, oh man, I picked up the couch cushion 3 times last night. I got 3 times. Cool, man. Try your TV remote control now. What? Yeah. Take 2 snake hooks, try and pick up your TV remote control. When you could pick up and put the TV remote control down on the kitchen table 10 times, let's try something different. And they're like, what? Like, think about how good you're going to be with those snake hooks. Just extensions of yourself.
That's super interesting. Kind of like karate kidding it. like get them good at all the little sections, and then it all comes together, when it needs to.
That's the goal, man. Hopefully you never need to.
Yeah. Cool. So that was we got like an hour down of a lot of venomous talk. Now I do want to talk about some regular colubrids. Because I know you have them.
I have one venomous colubrid right now. I have a single female Telescopus obscurus from Egypt. This is the Egyptian cat-eyed snake. And I have been raising that thing. Oh my God, it's been like 4 years now. I've been raising that thing since it was a cocktail straw. And now it's probably the size of like a McDonald's soft drink straw. And that it's just so slow to grow. But yeah, I felt compelled to tell you about one venomous colubrid I have right now.
Nice.
Sorry.
Nice.
Go on. Please continue.
No worries. And we actually had a question in the chat I almost forgot about. Have you seen a different rate of ophiophagy with venomous breeding versus non-venomous breeding? So I'm assuming that's meaning the pair going at each other.
Yeah. I feel like there's always unique scenarios with that. I've been really good at not had mom and dad eat each other in that regard. I've had some friends that did not have a good time and they had very, very expensive cobras accidentally eat each other. I've been really lucky with that. In terms of snakes that eat other snakes, I try not to keep them. I'm not that guy. It's too difficult for me to continuously source prey items. You look at my friend Henry, who only keeps Ophiophagous snakes. He only keeps snakes that eat other snakes. He has multiple chest freezers filled to the brim with frozen snakes. That's all he does. So someone that focuses on it is a lot easier than someone like myself that doesn't. But no, in terms of pairing or breeding venomous, it is very species specific, but I also don't keep the snakes that are more prone to eat other snakes. So I guess I'm a bad judge for that question. I don't know.
Gotcha. And also when it comes by Florida standards, like the venomous colubrids, like Boega is in that category, correct?
Yeah,
like
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's difficult in Florida because Florida uses the term colubridae as a catch-all. So the venomous snakes, let me rephrase that. The only colubrids with venom that the state of Florida recognizes as dangerous and requires you to have the venomous license is Boiga, Actrataspis, Teletornus, Rhabdophis, and why can't I remember the last one? Oh my gosh. What am I forgetting? Someone's going to yell at me. Keller, help me out here. Anyway, those are the only ones that they can't. I can't remember.
I gotcha. All right, cool. But yeah, like Michael Gillen's saying, subocs. I know that's a big thing. They are, they fit that arid / desert, nature that your room is filling. So,
Yeah,
and I saw you pick some up at Daytona. I got to see those. So yeah, let's talk about subocs, man, because subocs are
yeah,
really cool, and I feel like they're just an underrated North American rat snake, and it's probably just because they're a little more sensitive than your like care wise than your standard North Americans, but they're really, really pretty snakes. And they're so cool.
yeah, for sure, man. I went down the Subak Road a few years ago, and oh yes, Jason Keller, you sweet, sweet, sweet man. Boom slangs. Boom
Okay,
slangs is that fifth one. Oh Jesus.
gotcha.
Anyway, so back to Subbox. So I always thought they were kind of cool. I was never a big fan of them, but I thought they were cool. And I can't remember who had it. Somebody had one. They were like, "Man, I just got this Subbok. Check it out." And I was like, "Wow, this is really cool." And then I went to West Texas, and we herped West Texas, and the only Subbok we found was a giant waffled male that had just got run over flat like a pancake by a semi truck.
Ah,
And I was looking at the animal, I was like, man, that thing was majestic. I need that in my life. So I got a pair, and I had no idea what I was doing. And it didn't matter the homework I did, I still killed them, sadly to say. They were
okay,
babies, and hindsight, I don't know if they were ill when I got them. I don't know if my conditions were wrong. I tried to go as textbook as I could, but again, baby snakes, sometimes there's a reason why mom has 10 or 20 of them.
yeah, yep,
And I kind of gave myself a break from that. And then I picked up a pair of Wild Rose Pass, and I changed the way I kept them. I put them in a rack system, and I just did everything wrong. And again, hindsight, the first ones I got, I kept correctly, and they probably weren't going to make it. They probably were bad babies to say the least.
okay,
The pair after that, I messed up big time. I ruined the ventilation. It was too humid. They started regurgitating. It was a
gotcha.
mess. And I learned from my mistakes. And now I keep them in extremely hot during the day, as cold as I can get them at night, with as little humidity as possible.
Yep.
I let their water bowl completely dry out. And then when I see the water
Oh
bowls
wow.
dry, then I fill just a little bit more water just to give them a taste and keep the humidity down. And I feed them smaller prey items less often. So I've definitely catered it to my South Florida humidity fight, but I'm doing way better than I was before. So this year
Okay,
will be the first year that I pair them. I'm
nice.
gonna do a silver pairing, and then depending on if my Wild Rose male is a little beefier, he's a little lean right now. I don't know why, but he is. He still eats and poops and is awesome, but I want him to be a little thicker. I might do Wild Rose Pass as well this year. So I don't know. It's also tough for me because I'm very pragmatic with what am I going to do with the babies.
Right.
And I know you're not supposed to count your eggs before you have chickens, but with my luck, I'm going to get 20 babies and no one's going to want them. And I'm be like, oh crap, what am I going to do with all these babies? So
I think people will want them.
I know, but I gotta be a little pragmatic, and I have to make sure that if no one wants this stuff, I'm prepared to keep it for the rest of its life. I'm that guy.
Okay.
So I'm gonna move some cages around, and I have 2 neonate racks that I'm gonna clean out completely and strip down, and hopefully I get some subbok babies this year.
Very
So
nice.
I actually
Yeah.
I had a gravid female back in, oh geez, when was this? This was 2006, I think. I had a gravid female when I was working at Strictly Reptiles, and she dropped like 7 or 8 great eggs. And I bookshelved them in the Venomous room. I put them in vermiculite in a 12 inch, is it 12-inch or 10-inch deli cup? The big wide one.
Yeah, it's like 12,
Yeah,
I think.
12. So I put some vermiculite in there. I popped those little suckers in there and I stuck it on a bookshelf in the Venomous room at Strictly Reptiles. And every couple days I would check it and boom, everyone hatched out silver. And back then I was like, this is so cool, but I don't keep rat snakes, and got rid of them all. So,
Oh man.
you know, I managed to, I didn't breed them. I got her gravid, so I'm not going to claim that I've ever bred subox, but this year I'm going to try my look at it, try my hand at it.
Very nice.
Yeah. And I'm probably going to pick up a few more, maybe this summer, maybe Daytona. I haven't decided yet, but I'm definitely going to do silvers that are probably het albino. I'm not a morph guy, but I really like the silver look, the black and the gray. I think it looks great.
Yeah.
And then I've got Wild Rose Pass adults from Rob Nemo that are going to be, they're already killer. So their babies are just going to be screamers if I can do it.
Yeah. I think I got a chance to take a look at those guys. I don't
those
remember.
Are the ones, those ones I got at Daytona.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any pictures of them on Instagram? I'm just scrolling through.
I think so. Let me see. It'd be on the Knobtail page.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking.
Man, I don't know if I do. I can send you some. You want me to send them to Messenger or text you?
Yeah, you could send them on Messenger.
Yeah, I'll do that right now. Why not?
Give you guys a little visual show today. I know we've been going pretty audio heavy. And the Wild Rose Pass. So what is that? That's a like locality type, but they kind of have a look to them as well.
They do. So it's a highway that goes across this one part of West Texas through the mountains, and it's a very long highway. And realistically, you can find several different phenotypes along that highway. However, this particular one that I'm about to send you is kind of like the iconic look of that area.
Okay.
So here's those. I think those are all okay. So the first picture is the female, and the other two pictures is the male.
Yeah, now I just have to get Facebook Messenger on my laptop. That would help. Hold on. I think we could do this. Oh boy, I'm sorry, guys. Sorry for the lull. I'm logging in.
Dun dun dun.
It's happening. Okay. All right. Let's get this up here. Now it's just loading.
All right. So I sent you some silvers too. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and as beautiful as like the Wild Rose are, or some of the more hypo-y stuff, man, that silver, that black and gray, I just love the contrast of them. And I was out in West Texas this past August with Rob Stone, and we did not find any subox, sadly, but our good friends Dustin Gron and Brandon Valentine, they were there literally 4 days before us, and they found some killer specimens. So they actually got to see the very unique subocularis tick. So for those that don't know, there is a species of tick, like the blood-sucking tick, that only feeds on Transpecos rat snakes, and they tend to focus on the tail tip. And they actually got to see a wild suboc with this almost look like an ankylosaur dinosaur, or even like a rattlesnake rattle. It just looks like a rattlesnake rattle, but it's all ticks just encrusted on the tip of the tail. It's super fascinating. It's a crazy symbiotic relationship they have in some facet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the
I'm
goal
so sorry,
is,
guys. My computer is being annoying.
Oh, I know those pains.
Facebook. It's just Facebook. I don't log into my personal Facebook on my laptop, so that just took like an extra 2 minutes.
Actually, while you're doing that, Mike Gillen, who is also a Suboc fan, He's got some Wild Rose Pass too that he got from Smitty and from Justin Smith, and he's Phil's favorite road. I don't know if it's my favorite road, but it is definitely up there. I'm gonna send you 2 pictures from that road because I feel like we always talk about these localities and these locations. No one ever shows you what the hell it actually looks like.
Oh, these are dope. Hold on, I'm pulling these up.
That makes me feel so special. Thank you. I'm legit, like, warms my heart. Freaking Colubrids rule, man. You need to make that shirt. Colubrids rule.
I have the Let's Get Corrupted. I think you saw that one at Scales, didn't you?
Yeah.
The Let's Get Corrupted shirt. I like. Yeah. But Colubrids rule. That's a good idea too. All right. Now this one is which one?
So that's a female Wild Rose Pass.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, and that's a silver. Yeah. Yeah, they're just so cool, man, with their nice little bug eyes. Cool pattern, and the color's really striking too. Like, I love the contrast they have between the black and the silver. It's just super crisp.
Yeah, that's a great word, crisp. And obviously the white balance is off because
black and the yellows here.
Yeah, and these pictures do not do those orange ones justice. The white balance is all funky because I'm literally shooting it on the door of my bathroom, the white door.
Right.
I probably should go through and fix the white balance, but
I promise you, because you're here, I know you can't take a lot of your animals outside, but like outdoor pictures work fantastic.
Oh yeah, I'm
just
sure.
Like with a grass background.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm sending a couple more your way.
Okay.
Trying to find a good picture of the highway because that's what everyone wants to see. They want to see the highway. Here, this is good. I don't know how well that video is going to show up, but so sent you a couple more. One picture is 3D perches from David Brahms, Specialty Enclosure Designs. I don't know what he changed the name to something recently, Arboreal Specialties or something like that.
The reptile perch.
The reptile perch. That's it. Thank you. So yeah, David Brahms. Shout out David Brahms. He's the man. He's the goat. He made me these 3D printed perches for inside of tubs, and these smaller subocs I'm keeping in an 18 quart tub, and man, those little 3D printed lattice patterns are absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so I didn't get them from David Brahms, but I also used tub perches for a couple animals, my rhinos in particular, and I really like them.
Yeah, man. And dude, those subocs are on the perch every single night. Just their own little rock escarpment. So that Milky Way shot is with my cell phone from the center of I'm standing in the highway looking up on Wild Rose Pass.
That's super cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that is a black box cage that will be for that big silver suboc. She's gonna get that one.
Nice.
That's actually a rock cut where outside of Alpine, Texas, where the silver subocs are actually supposed to be. We did not find any.
So that's like a photo as a background?
Yes, I took that picture.
A real photo. Oh, yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, I took that picture at that rock cut, and then those rocks in the cage are rocks that I stole from the cut. And I have pictures of the rocks, but let me try and find a picture of the rocks. If you look at the rock that I found, it's the color of the suboc. It's crazy.
Okay.
And that's Wild Rose Pass.
Very nice. Yeah, that's super cool, man. And hearing some of your herp stories over the multiple podcasts I've listened to, it's just super cool. I've told you I haven't been much of a herper But I really admire the guys who do and go around the country and, look for these animals around. It is just super cool.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it, man. It means a lot.
Okay. Let me pull this up.
Yeah, I'm going to send you the same snake earlier. That way you can do the rocks side by side. And again, the white balance probably doesn't do it justice, but that's literally just the rocks on the ground where the silver subocs come from.
Yeah.
So like imagine that snake against that stone. It's awesome.
Yeah. You'd see why they blend in naturally.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. Let's see. I know you've worked with some corn snakes as well. You working on anything with those guys in particular, or you kind of have some like locality animals?
Yeah, so I have a pair of Liabidocates that are just the Sharpie marker textbook Okatee. You know what I'm talking about? Where everything is just Sharpie marker black around the border of everything. I'm raising those up. Those things are the coolest corns I think I've ever had. My first snake I ever had was an Okatee, and they're near and dear to my heart. Much like many other people in this world, Okatees for life.
Yeah.
But this Liabit pair is by far the meanest corn snakes I've ever. And you're gonna hate that I'm about to say this. You'd swear they're Texas rats. They're so mean. You can't pick them up without getting bit. They do nothing but flail around like a fish out of water and strike everywhere. But they are probably the prettiest Okatees I've ever had.
Yeah.
I'm sending you them next, whether you like it or not, because this is a Colubrid show and everyone needs to see my corn snakes.
Oh yeah.
Let me see if I can find a decent picture of them. It's so hard when you're a herper and you have all these snake photos and they all start to look alike.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then I've got a legit Miami phase corn that my buddy Marcus found for me in Miami. Okay. And then, so I kept that. I was like, man, I'm going to wait for the perfect snake to pair it with. It's a female. So I'm out in the glades in Broward County and I find a identical looking male. And I'm like, really? This is awesome. So I take that thing home. I get home. It throws up 4 adult brown anoles. And I guess just the trauma of doing that and the stress of being in captivity, and it died like 2 days later. Wow. So I was like, oh, so some time goes by. My buddy Marcus finds me another male. Doesn't look that good though. I'm like, I don't know. So I wound up giving that one to another friend, and now I'm still looking for the perfect boyfriend for this Miami female.
Okay.
But other than that, that's the only corn snakes I have. It's just those 3 right now.
Gotcha.
Dude, why do I not have a picture of these Okatees? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here. These should be in my favorites.
I find it so hard. Like I'll take one good picture of a certain snake and I'll remember that picture, and then I never know where to find that picture again. And I'm like, has it been that long? Or you'll scroll past it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is that you have so many favorites. I'm just flipping through favorites. And to be honest, I have way more subok pictures than I have corn snake pictures, sadly. But I don't know. If I find them later, I'll send them to you. I don't want to keep the people waiting.
No.
But yeah, those are the only corns.
Yeah. But you've always been akin to your Florida natives too. I know you have some Everglades rat snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a pair of Glades rats now. I had more. I had another female, and sadly she just passed. And you know, us in Florida, we've been dealing with this whole pickleball court scenario, right?
Yeah.
So for those who are unaware, Florida is under the gun right now for legislation to allow construction and development of golf courses and pickleball courts on Florida ecosystems. Basically, let's say there's a state park and You can hunt in the park and you can fish in the park. You can camp in the park in designated camping areas. And there's a 5-acre parking lot in the front, right? They bulldoze 5 acres to make a parking lot for people to come and, park their RV or whatever. Totally cool. Because the park is, say, I don't know, 20,000 acres. Well, the state's trying to pass legislation that says, oh, well, there's 20,000 acres and we already developed 5 acres of it. So let's just bulldoze another 10. And then, they'll still have 10 or 15 acres left for the animals, right? Well, obviously that's bad. And what they're going to put on that bulldozing is pickleball courts and golf courses. And one of them has a resort and like a country club and some of the crap. So
Yeah.
Our ecosystems are legitimately under the gun. And the law got so much backlash from Floridians that are naturalists, excuse me, and birders and herpers and fishermen, that the state put the bill on hiatus. They said, all right, we're not going to deal with it right now. We'll reevaluate in 9 months or whatever it is, and we'll go from there. Well, the day that they got it postponed, a friend of mine who works for a city says, hey, man, I got this giant snake on the pickleball court. Can you come catch it? And I said, sure. So I drove to the county-run park where they just bulldozed all this Everglades and made all this beautiful pickleball courts filled with concrete and wire fencing. And smack dab in the middle of this pickleball court is this Everglades rat snake that is just terrified out of its mind. And you could see on the edge of the pickleball court is like a grass hill, and then it falls off into cypress forest. And all I could think of was, man, forgive me if I'm like on the soapbox right now, or if I'm getting too, tree huggy. All I could think of was, last year, this snake had a forest to live in. And now it got picked up by a fat guy from Boca to go live with him because it has nowhere else to live. and it hit home, man. It did. So, and people are saying Everglades rats specifically because now they're not their own species anymore. They're lumped in with Eleganensis. Okay, DNA, genetics, I get it, blah, blah, blah. You're seeing less and less Everglades rats, regardless of what they are, whether it's a mutation or a regional phenotype, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You're seeing less and less of them. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that those animals don't have their own kind to breed with, and they're breeding with yellows, which is washing them out and making them less orange and more yellow or more gray. And there's going to be a day when there's no more Everglades left in the wild, no more Everglades rat snakes left in the wild. It's just going to happen. And I hate to say it, but it may even be in our lifetime. Because other than that one on the pickleball court, I have not found an Everglades rat snake in at least a decade. And I've been looking. I found yellows, but no oranges. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I'm sure you got to ask Montrose for a spot. He'll never give them up, but
yeah, of course,
I think Chris knows where they're at.
Well, I had my own spot, and I had multiple of my own spots. They're gone, man. They're gone. Yeah,
interesting.
One of them was an abandoned housing complex from the 1950s that nature took back, and we found the coolest Everglades rat snakes out there, and we never kept them. We never bred them because it was like, we'll just, when we want to see one, we'll go find one. That's half the fun of it.
Yeah.
And then some years went by and we went to go find one, and the Army Corps of Engineers bulldozed the whole area to allow nature to rejuvenate itself. Well, nature already took it back. Like there were vines across the road. The grass was overgrown.
Yeah.
Like nature took it back. All you did was kick it off the front porch again. So we'll see what happens, but it's definitely difficult times right now in terms of in that regard.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let's see. The last thing I wanted to talk about before a couple wrap-up questions. You mentioned found those on Instagram. The Arizona Mountain King snakes. I haven't had a lot of like Mountain King talk on here. What you got going on with those guys? Because I know they're kind of deserty as well. They're fitting into the species.
Yeah, they're desert snakes, but it wasn't until I went to the habitat and saw it for myself that I could ever imagine how to keep them. Everyone thinks Arizona, they think, saguaro cactus and desert, and that is not the case, man. They are pine tree forests in the mountains. And yes, it gets scorching hot during the summer, but it also gets freezing cold in the winter. So I take care of them a little differently than everything else. I don't keep any heat on them at all. I try to keep them as low as possible because I know the room is going to spike. I also have them on the cooler side of the room that gets more shade throughout the day. Same thing with my rock rattlesnakes, which are a high altitude pine forest side of the mountain snake, if you want to call it that. And they're doing good. I was going to try and breed them. I got my female died, and I went about a year and a half with just a lone male I had been raising. And then Keith McPeak was cool enough to sell me his female. So I got her. So if my male is big enough this year, I might try and put them together, but probably not. It'll probably be next year. It'll probably be winter of 26 or end of 25, whatever you call it.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah. Cool, man. A lot of coals in the fire, but nothing's warming up just yet.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No worries there. That's awesome though. I like that you're working with a bunch of different snakes. It's super. I think it's always super fun to have different species and to be trying and working with different things.
Yeah, man. Variety is the spice of life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So before we wrap this up tonight, but it's been a great conversation. Go through kind of some of my wrap up questions here. So what's a big motivator for what keeps you going with reptiles? You've obviously been doing this for a very long time. You grew up with it. And you kind of keep pushing forward. You love your venomous stuff and all that, but what's keeping that fire burning for you?
Finally having the gumption it's two parts. One, it's meeting and making friends with guys like you. You're the next generation, and I love the enthusiasm and thinking outside the box and watching the husbandry evolve and the breeding evolve, and just everything is just getting better and better. And we can talk to people across the world and share videos and pictures and GPS coordinates. And it's like everyone talks about, the heyday of herping or the heyday of reptile keeping. No, we're in it, man. We're in it now. And like other podcasters have said the same thing. Like it's not, I didn't coin that idea, but it very much is the case now where I got to meet you. And like, we get to have these amazing conversations. Like that in itself is keeping me going, is seeing other people that are as weird and passionate about this as I am, and just us embracing it. The other thing is I finally have the gumption to go and see these animals in the wild. And one of my biggest herping regrets is not doing it sooner. Is we have an idea of what their habitat looks like. We have an idea of what their habitat's supposed to be like or what it's supposed to feel like. But until you see it in person, you have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
And even the times where I was like, you know what? This is exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's still not exactly what I thought it was going to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get you. And even, someone like myself, like I'd love to go to, I guess, the eastern half of Texas to go check out where my Texas rats are from, see them in the wild, see what true adult, like wild Texas rats look like in different localities and things like that, and seeing, the different colors on them and all that good stuff. I definitely owe myself that at the very least, to do that.
For sure, man. And what's cool is Texas rats are so variable in both their phenotype as well as their locality. Like you have so many more options to find them than so many other species. And it makes me happy to know that you have such a passion for that species as you do, because
Yeah.
it will be that much more fun for you to find them in the wild and find the different ones in the wild and different areas.
Definitely.
Like, that's so cool. I mean, when I go with the guys looking for a montane rattlesnake, there's only so many spots we can go, and they're all going to look fairly similar for the most part. But you go into East Texas and looking for Texas rats, man, sky's the limit. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
cool. That's super cool.
Yeah. Mike, I agree with you that probably is going to be a thing. And I know the CCR guys are already on it with the CCR Conservation Fund. I know, it's part of what they originally talked about before they even formed it. And they've been talking more about it recently, but go look on the CCR website, what they're doing with that. I know right now it's currently funding towards like hognose conservation in particular, but like I know the guys, they want to literally buy land and make it almost like a herping like place. And I don't know if that's officially the plan or if they've just mentioned that would be something cool to do, but if that is something that's in the works, hopefully it's something we work towards, as a group.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Cool. All right. What would you say in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, what does the future hold for Phil Wolf in terms of the reptile hobby?
Oh, geez. I've been talking about parent stuff for a long time, so hopefully I get to bring that to fruition. I really want to dive into subox more. I do. And I feel like there's not enough people doing them, and which is not necessarily a bad thing because the people that are doing them really are focusing on them. But I just want to share the bug-eyed love. You know what I mean? Like, everyone needs a derpy, big-eyed, chill as hell snake that's easy to keep as long as you set them up right, with giant letter H's going down their back. Like, it's just cool, man. They're just cool snakes. And I want to produce more. I want to get more. But I also realize that I do have a big collection, at least for me. Obviously, there's people that have way more than I do. But for my time and my allocation of that part of my life, I want to kind of, I don't want to say trim the fat, but I really want to focus on some of these projects, maybe sell some more stuff, maybe give some snakes to friends that could evolve the project more. I think if I can manage to produce water pythons, that'll probably be the one time I ever do it. And I might, keep one or two as a pet, and then, just exit out of that and put that space and time into more subox or something to that extent. But yeah, I want to focus on that. And I really want to focus on setting up my vivariums. I've been procrastinating it for so long. And I want windows into the ecosystem. I want to be able to walk up to the vivarium and look at it. And my goal is, you saw the picture that I took as the background.
Yeah.
I have several other cages like that. Each of those cages has a similar background where either I personally took the photo or a dear friend of mine took the photo.
Okay.
And that's going to be my MO. Either I took the photo or a friend took the photo, and it's going to be the background because I really want windows into that world. I want to be able to have my own little mini zoo, my own mini living museum, because yes, it is very convenient and easy to keep corn snakes on aspen in a tub. Like, it works. It's foolproof. I'm successful. You're successful with it. Like, we know it works. But how much cooler is it when you have a picture of like the barn house in the background, and there's like some rusted tools and some hay, and it looks like the corn snake came right off the farm? Like, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. I have a picture of a old rusted, I don't know what the hell it is. It's some kind of mechanical lift. I was in the sugarcane fields outside of Belglade, and the sun was setting, and the cane was real high. You could barely see over the cane, and the sun was setting, and there was like this weird mechanical pump thing that was diesel powered, and it hadn't been turned on in decades. And it was just a really cool vintage Americana view, and I took a picture of that. And I have a rattlesnake, a pygmy rattlesnake that I found on that road.
Oh, nice.
And that's going to be the background for that pygmy. So like, I really want to put the story with the snake through that decor.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And my biggest problem is I don't like doing things little by little. I want to basically take a day and just bang it all out in a day. And my friend who I work with, who's a closet herper, he has some really beautiful vivs. And he does all the foam carving and all the crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm learning that. I'm dabbling now, as you could see with that one. But he's telling me, he's like, dude, you're not going to do it in a day. You're not. You got to just do little by little by little by little. And eventually you'll be done. And that in itself, the journey in itself is another awesome, fun thing. So that's all I got for right now.
Cool. All right. Now this, my final question is going to be a little different than it usually is. So let's say you have someone who is genuinely interested in getting into Venomous and they are willing to go about things the right way. And maybe they're not in Florida, so they don't have to go through the process that we have to go through. But what is something what would you say to someone who's trying to get into this? What's your, I don't want to say elevator pitch because maybe that's the wrong term for it, but
Sure.
what would you say to someone who's genuinely interested in looking into keeping venomous snakes in a responsible way?
Don't rush. Take your time. Focus on what you want to do. Think about how you want to do it. Find people that you can learn from, that you can get different perspectives from different opinions and different points of view, and sculpt your tutelage with that. Sculpt your education with that. There is no rush. Everyone wants to get there. They want to get to the finish line. The journey is worth it because the journey is where you get the knowledge. And it took me a long time to realize that that is the journey is the fun. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And all you're going to do is make yourself better by taking your time and learning more and learning more and learning more, reading as many books as you can get, talking to as many veteran keepers as you can, learning from as many veteran keepers as you can. And just because the person isn't across town doesn't mean you can't reach out to them. I've talked to people over the phone and given them pointers and given them tips. I've asked for tips and pointers over the phone.
Yeah.
We have the technology. We have supercomputers in our hand, you know?
Yeah.
I can push a button and talk to a friend in Australia. I can push a button and see maps of topographical maps of the world. Right. And use that to your advantage. Take your time, enjoy the journey, learn all that you can. And if something seems wrong or not, maybe not wrong, something seems not right, it probably is. And you may want to talk to someone else. And that's a really big deal. I've had plenty of people come to me like, hey man, I've been getting hours with Joe and it doesn't feel right, man. I'm like, well, you should probably not get hours with Joe anymore. Just saying.
Yeah.
You know, not to single Joe out. It was
just
first name that came to mind. But and that's it. Just take your time and learn everything you can and don't rush into it. Don't say, you know what? I've been doing this for 5 months. It's time to get my first venomous snake. No, take your time. Really take your time. The majority of people that I've taught over the years in Florida, they always say, I want to get a Gaboon Viper, man. Gaboon Vipers are so cool. They're beautiful. They look like leaf litter. They have horns. They have the world's largest fangs. They have a massive venom yield. They're live-bearing terrestrial vipers from Africa. How is that not the coolest thing ever? And after they work with a Gaboon for 2, maybe even 3 years, they're like, dude, why did I ever want to keep this? It's boring.
Because they're boring, right?
It just sits there and does absolutely nothing. And I'm not shitting on Gaboons. I have them, but
yeah.
Excuse me. It just goes to show you that you learn and you learn and you learn so that you can make your final decision. Don't rush into anything. Just enjoy the journey, learn all you can. It will come in time. And if it comes down to a legislation thing, a window of opportunity, and you feel like you want to strike when the iron's hot, go for it. But remember your own limitations. Remember where you're at. Just because I have a driver's license does not mean I should go out and buy a Formula One race car, even if I have the money to do it. I still got to go to race car school.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Well, that's a good way to end tonight's episode. Don't go and buy a venomous snake at your local Repticon where they allow it with simply a driver's license.
Yes,
But
exactly.
Phil, it's been a great hour and 45 minutes. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you
been
for
a
having
great
me,
episode.
man. I love doing this stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, I know you do. It's always fun when two podcast hosts are together on the same show because we can both probably talk each other heads off. So
for sure.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, well, awesome, man. Thank you so much. I have the link to Phil's Instagram in the description wherever you're listening to this, so make sure you go follow him. Say what's up, let him know you enjoyed the episode and all that good stuff. Phil, thanks. I'm gonna throw you backstage. We'll run through the outro and we can talk for a couple minutes after.
Yeah, man, sounds good.
All right, thanks, man. All right, guys, what another great episode of the Colubrid Corruption podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. Just a great episode. I really enjoy learning. I said this recently on another episode, just like with species I don't know about and things I don't know about, it's almost easier for me to come up with questions just because there's stuff I don't know and there's stuff I want to know about them. So, and I really enjoy hearing from people like Phil and like my friend Paul about the Venomous stuff because I like hearing from experienced keepers who do things responsibly. I think that's really good. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit a like on today's episode. And if you're listening on the audio podcasting platforms, again, you can listen everywhere. Make sure you leave a 5-star review. First link in the description goes to the Meteoric Serpent's Patreon if you want to support this show in another way. But yeah, shout out to everyone who was in the live chat tonight. Really appreciate you guys. Super active chat. Also, once again, we are brought to you by the Show Me Reptiles show and the Show Me Marketplace. Use code corruption-50 as a vendor to get 50% off your Show Me Marketplace membership for 1 year. But that is a wrap for tonight, guys. Once again, this was episode number 51 with Phil Wolf. I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.